And I do see that it's on YouTube, and I know there's that little bit of a delay. So we're trusting the process and
Excellent.
welcoming
We
everyone
really
here to, say when you pop in, say hello in the chat. And interesting times we're in right now.
Oh, yes, that's a good way to put it. Interesting times.
Mhm.
And how much we get caught up in it, and how much, like, do we ignore it? Do we worry about it? How do we find the balance? Um, where to get good information so that you're not, getting knocked off guard. And I've realized that my local news is not the best place. I've recognized they're quite biased.
Mhm.
And so, I think everything's a big business nowadays. So, yeah, all of those things can be really stressful.
Yeah.
If you're joining us, welcome, welcome. I can't see what's going on for some reason, so I don't know who's here, but the chat should be working, hopefully.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm seeing this on
If
here. And
if you want to pop something in the chat and say hello, let us know you're here. Um, you're welcome to jump into our conversation at any time. And Deborah, let's talk a little bit about our last conversation.
yeah, so we were kind of in this place where we were talking about like the feeling of like being in two worlds almost, from what we're each creating and what's going on out in the world. And there's like, it does have that feel of like there's the hopefulness of, you know, what we're creating and how we're creating it and what we're moving into and the things we can feel from a place of what I would say is what we can connect to energetically. And then there is this other mess.
World, the
Yeah,
world mess.
the world's mess, and it's like, everyone's trying to sort it out, but I also feel too that, like, there's this hanging on to, like, the old ways of doing stuff, like we talked a little bit about the kind of the patriarchal death spiral and that need to maintain power and dominance. And I feel like as a culture, we're just too awake to go back. You can't put the genie back in the bottle, so to speak.
Mhm.
And I also feel too that this is a great time for, if you've been sitting on the fence of something that you've been wanting to create for a while, like you've had a dream about doing something, you imagine yourself doing something, like most people, like it's always goes down to like writing a book or something like that, some sort of mission
Mhm.
that your soul maybe has you here and is nudging you for. I feel like this is kind of oddly enough, it's a perfect time for that because energy is energy and it's really what we do in it to create. And, creation has destruction in it, and so does transformation. So it's really we were kind of talking around those kind of lines the last time we were together.
Yeah, yeah. And keeping ourselves, like you said, grounded in what we're doing on the positive side of things, what we're doing to affect change. And we don't always see it as affecting change,
Right.
but if you're not getting caught up in what the chaos of what's going on, you really are affecting change. And that doesn't mean that every moment of every day you have to stay out of it, because I get caught up in it too. I, rant and rave about politics quite often. And then I have to bring myself back and go, okay, this is all happening for a reason. I know it's happening for a reason.
Yep.
And what am I doing? What am I doing in the world right now?
Yeah.
And that's the important part. Like, what are we doing as humans? And there's a lot happening that's positive, so much that we don't hear about, right?
Yeah.
Our news doesn't share it. Our we don't see it in a lot of places unless we seek it out.
Right. Yeah, and there's just such a trend too of, like, kind of watching the building burn down, it is that, like, the accident you can't turn away from, you don't really wanna see it, but, you can't help but wanna look, but everywhere you go, like in social media circles and all that kind of stuff, you're seeing stuff. I saw a post the other day of that picture that Trump posted, the AI picture of himself as Christ or a healer or whatever he said he
A
was.
doctor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a
I saw
doctor.
myself as a doctor.
Yeah, and, what I thought was really interesting is the person posting it is like, well, they were posting it because they thought it was ridiculous, but I'm like, "You're spreading it," you know?
Mhm,
So, I think that's where we can kinda start looking at, like, how we participate as individuals in that collective, and it's
mhm,
not about it's finding that balance between, burying your head in the ground and ignoring what's going on, and also putting things out there that helps people get out of the mire of it, you know?
mhm.
It's like being part of the problem or being part of the solution, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And, it's just all too easy just to keep passing things around, but then what are we doing really when we're doing that, you know?
yeah. We're just making it more and more popular. I mean, because you look at it and you go, "I can't believe this," and you go to show somebody else because like, "I can't believe this. Can you believe this? This is ridiculous." But you're absolutely right because it's perpetuating the problem, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
building momentum, and yeah, there that oh, I'm trying to think of the saying that we went right out of my head. This is the day I've been having. Um, Positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't matter which one it is, as long as you're getting the attention.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like the kid that's always yelling out, right?
Yeah.
In class, that's the kid, the squeaky wheel, right, is gonna get the
Yes.
goose, and it isn't like we just ignore it either, but it's how do we shift the conversation, so to speak,
Mhm.
of what we're so more in toward creating instead of, like, focusing on what's breaking down, and yeah, it is scary because we don't know what's going to happen or what they're going to decide, but where our voices can be heard is with you're at the local level, and we've always talked about, like, paying attention to what's happening locally, not just in government, with your representatives and where you can make your voice heard, but also here. This is
Mhm.
the most local environment, so it's helping move yourself, like when you're feeling fear, not to bury the fear, but allow it to come up. Because when we're feeling the fear, it's really showing us what we're attached to and
Mhm.
what we're needing to shift out of, and if we allow the fear to move, it doesn't mean anything, it's just the energy's moving and it's clearing out, but if we hold on to it, if we grip it because we don't wanna feel it, we're having to deal with that gripping and then trying to do something different, and what we need to be doing is letting it all move as if we're like in a stream that continually moves, and it's the surrender to the current, it's surrendering to
Mhm.
the energy of the stream, and knowing that, you have when it's right for you, you can stand up in the stream, or you can, shift direction, or you can do whatever. There is a yes and in all that. It's not just the surrender and do nothing, right? It's
Mhm.
the surrender and like where am I needed? What's my
Yes.
mission?
Yeah.
What's my job? What am I creating? What am I building? And I wrote this question down that we said last time that we were talking, and it's what am I building that's good?
Mhm.
That's what we were kind of talking about is like putting our focus on, yes, this is crumbling, but what are we building? What are we
Mhm.
building that's good? What are we building that's in service to not just me and myself, so I feel good, but like, for others, and
Yeah.
not just for others, but for me too, you know?
Yeah, and that's a really important part, the balance. I've really learned that this year, um,
Good
about the
lessons.
balance. As someone who has been in service to others most of my life, um, finding that balance of, does this work for me as well? But, and is it really working? Is it really empowering? Is it really what's needed? Or
Mm,
does it just make me feel good to do it?
yeah,
Right? And that has been, I really had to look at those things this year. to
Yeah.
see, because I have a very limited amount of energy, I have to make sure it fills all the boxes and
Yeah.
not just those ones that make me feel good doing the things that, I think you need. What I think you need.
Yeah.
And
It
yeah.
is a total shift in perspective. I totally hear what you're saying too. It's like, my healing practice in business has and how I practice, has
Mhm.
changed from, eh, and when I think back to when I first started, it's like you feel that responsibility of trying to heal someone because it's almost like a perceived perceived perception. Someone else's perception coming in and thinking like, "You're the healer, you're supposed to heal me or fix me or
Mhm.
know
Fix
all
me.
the
Yeah.
answers that I don't know
Yes.
myself."
Mhm.
And, that participatory, um, piece of things where people come and lay on the table because that's what we've been trained to do. The doctor knows best, somebody else knows best, the teacher knows the person in authority knows best.
Mhm.
And what I've seen shift over time, that I've been doing this work and with me getting on board with it too as a practitioner, is that I can't heal you. Like it's ridiculous to think that I can. It's ridiculous to say that I can, but what I can do is provide the space and the tools and the know-how because if I can do something, I know you can do it. And maybe you just didn't know how to get there. And
Mhm.
so there's an educational piece, and then there's the piece of like things will transform. Your body isn't a fixed mechanism in space that's broken. The mind is fluid and the body is part of the mind,
Yeah.
and so there's a lot of stuff that's happening in consciousness too, which is in the direction of empowerment and setting people free versus maintaining a dependency. So that's happening everywhere, right? That's what we're seeing breaking down in our government programs, but the way they're doing it is still from a mechanistic mindset. So
Mhm.
it's like we either cut the legs off of all of the support systems,
Mhm.
or everyone's on the support system. So it has to find its way where people can be supported and be empowered in that. And that's a lot of subject to debate and conversations that have to happen. And
Yeah. And just even getting on the same page, like if you're talking about sort of the government systems and things like that, um, like we set people up for failure with a lot of our support systems.
yeah,
And so, yeah, to be able to empower them, they have to be able to move past that. But then how do they
yeah,
do that? Because as soon as they make a step forward, oh, you're going to yank everything. And so it's
exactly.
like an all or nothing. And it's like, could I make a step and you could take a little bit? And I could
Mhm,
make another step and you could take, but no, it's an all or nothing. And so we set people up for failure. We don't want you to move forward because, we don't want you to get better. You whatever it is, right?
mhm.
And yeah, that's been a big problem. Our system is very broken.
It is very broken. Well, it's based on, fear, limitation, domination. It's all the things, right?
Yes.
That it's the antithesis of empowering us into freedom, right? Into how we
They don't
wanna
want us to be empowered. They want us to
No.
fall in line,
No.
listen, and just do what we're told.
Right, right. But it's like they can't imagine that we might be able to self-govern, we might be able to be self-responsible, you
Mhm.
know? And that, yeah, we don't need to be told what to do or monitored and I feel like because there is that, we live into that, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. Because we get caught into our limitations, right? What
Mhm.
we've been told are our limitations. And we don't even know that we can move past that often because we're told we can't.
Yeah.
So then of course, well, we can't. I mean, sometimes we'll then like push, right? But more often than not, we're like, oh no, I can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Well, and it's scary too, like, as you're talking, I was, like, um, thinking about I did a new moon ceremony with my Substack people, And what was really interesting about that is like the day before I kind of opened up the mesa and like just kind of rattled and kind of listened to what was coming through. And what the biggest message that came through was, what will people think? What will they think when I am living the life I want to be living? When I
Mm,
am happy, when I'm feeling fulfilled, when I'm, doing what I'm here to do. And, I think to, there is this mindset that we have that like we can only do the things once we have the money to do the things.
yeah.
And that the money to do the things is being held by someone else, but that's really disempowering. So if you just kind of changed your mind and go to the first thing that like, what will someone think of me when I am doing the thing I love to be doing? Whatever that looks like. Not about making all the money, but the thing I love to be doing, that when I wake up every morning, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I am just in love with my day." You know,
Hmm.
not to say you don't have the regular up and down, because that just exists in this world. Your focus is more on what you love, right? Versus the things that are draining us, right? And I sat myself in that same question, and it was really interesting what came up, because there is a piece of what we do that we stop ourselves because what will other people think about us? Like,
Hmm.
either like they'll be jealous, or they'll be angry with us, or they'll put us down, or all those uncomfortable things. So if you could just even imagine the version of yourself living the life you want to live and how you're walking around through the earth, it that gets a little scary, because I'm living fulfilled.
Hmm.
And so I feel like that's where we kind of are doing some of that work to kind of open ourselves up to release those belief systems around I can't because, or, what other people think of us. And even if you think, it's funny because I don't think I care much about what other people think, but there is still something there that stops
Hmm.
me from expressing myself fully as I
Hmm.
wish to express, there. And I think we all kind of do that. There's the face we show to public, there's the face we show to our friends, there's the face we show to family, and
Hmm.
then there's the private face. Why do we do that if we don't care what people think?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Where I first noticed that was actually here, because you and I would talk every week,
Hmm.
and then we would do this once a month, and I was always so drained after our live.
Mm.
And you and I were talking about it, and you didn't notice a difference, you said, but I was like, I really noticed a difference. And that was before I got as bad as I have been this, past 6 months. But and then it was like there was like this always this worry, in the back of my head that I wasn't even really aware of
Hmm.
about how I was presenting. Was I smiling enough? I'm too exhausted to worry about those things now, but but I also had to sit with that and be like, because I didn't think of myself as being someone who was worried about what other people thought.
Hmm.
Conflict, I'm all for it. I will push buttons to get people started, and I will ramp up right when I get going. So I'm also a really good mediator and can do both. But I never thought of myself as holding myself back or worrying about what I looked like or how I was presenting.
Hmm.
And I tend to have a resting bitch face, is what I've been told. And so I was like worried about how, was I smiling enough? Was I making eye contact? Another autistic trait. All of those things. And now it's just like I'm showing up the best I can. And
Hmm.
I can't worry about it. I can't worry about it. There's still other places, you know. I did not tell my father-in-law off this weekend. I just was very polite, even though he needed to be told off. I just, breathe. So there are places that we still, hide our true selves,
Yeah.
because it's part of getting along in the world.
Yeah.
But are we doing it to get along, for like to move forward, or are we doing it to get along and holding ourselves back? And I think that's a really good distinction to know for ourselves.
Mhm.
and where we need to pay attention. Because, like me, I don't think a lot of people know that they do it,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting. I got a lot coming through on all of that. This is a really kind of a deep vein conversation, you know? So there's I think it's called The Art of Conversation by Thich Nhat Hanh. And in there, there's a story about like the master teacher and then a student. And the master teacher was talking to this family about death, and he was talking about it this way. And then he was talking to a different family who was talking about it that way. And so the student kind of like, after noticing that the teacher was saying different things to different people, like he kind of thought, like, well, are you telling the truth? Or are you holding
Mm,
back information? And the master teacher said, no, it's like, it's discernment, knowing who can handle what information. And that's part of our job, is so that we're not harming anyone with our communicating, that we we really listen to the ability of the person to be able to take in the information that you have to give. So I kind of liken that to when you're talking to a smaller child about
mhm,
a big topic. You don't just give them all the information, because they won't be able to process it all. So you kind of have to meet people where they are.
mhm,
And that's a different thing than holding back. That's using
mhm,
discernment and being kind with where people are. And so there is those nuances around, am I holding back because I'm protecting myself, or am I holding back because I'm in service to this other person that
mhm.
maybe needs something a little different than the way I would give it full on, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Full on has not worked well with him, so, yes. Part of
You
that
say
is
probably
me holding back
full on,
to
right?
protect myself, because
Yeah.
his rage is quite, a lot, but
Mhm.
also I know that it's gonna fall on deaf ears and cause harm,
Yeah.
that unnecessary.
Yeah, and it's
So,
probably not your battle to fight,
mhm,
you know? So there's those moments, right, where we give ourselves some grace around
yeah,
that, not every battle has to be fought and won, and, every dragon needs to be slain, you know?
mhm,
He'll meet the person that's meant to be his teacher. It just may not be you, you know?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Not everyone is my responsibility.
Yes. What a relief that is, right?
Yes. I spent most of my life worrying about everybody else,
Yeah,
and, until I had to worry about me.
yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
so it's been a real life changer. I've learned a lot. I've learned
yeah,
a lot, so,
yeah,
um, and just going back to those, like, what are we putting out into the world?
mhm,
I don't feel like I'm putting a lot out into the world right now, but the interactions that I'm having are much deeper, and so I think really I'm putting more out into the world in a positive way than I was when I was putting out a lot.
yeah,
And I've really had to sit with that as well.
yeah. Well, that's sounds like the difference between energy and matter, you know?
Mhm.
It's like the matter we put out into the world, right? And then the energy we don't think matters, which is interesting because everything starts out with that, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And I think of like the monks that live up in the high mountains of the Himalayas, and their, only job is to pray, and, the wisdom keepers of the world. And it's like all of that is needed for the earth. The people who work very closely with the earth and the earth energies and work as healers for the earth and nature. Not everybody's called to do that. We all have our callings. And I
Mhm.
think this is some of where we have to get out of the judgment of who's more important because of the roles that they're playing. And it seems that money is the thing that determines whether your work holds any value or not,
Yeah.
how much money you're making at the thing that you're doing. and that if you're not making money, you're a failure and you have no value. And the thing is like we're moving out of that. That's what's coming online is what do we value? Especially when you're facing like the craziness of a war where somebody unstable can hit a button and that'll be
Mhm.
it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just start that chain reaction that, yes, yes. Um, the, oh, nope, my brain had something and it left.
I can fill the space if you need me to.
Yes, please.
Maybe it'll come back.
Right.
I was thinking about like this leadership program that I was in, and me, I'm very, I'm a Mesa carrier. I'm very much into the earth and spirituality and connection with the earth and the beings and of nature beings,
Mhm.
and all that kind of stuff. And there was this woman who was an activist, like an environmentalist activist, and she saw no value in anything that I had to do because it wasn't the way she was expressing her love for the earth,
Mhm.
right? So when I would say something like, "Oh, I get so incensed with someone throwing trash out into the beautiful landscape here, they can't carry it with them,"
Mhm.
and she would say something about, "Well, that's the least of it all because that trash that was there was a product that was made da 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 da." And
Mhm.
so instead of shaming someone because of the way they're working with the earth, it's like welcome them on board as part of your team that just has a different job description,
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
it's get out of the competition already. We're on the same side. Where your focus is not someplace I'm going to focus. It's not my forte. It's not where I'm called, and we each have a calling and we each have gifts that we're here to offer. And I feel like that's where we get to sit and see like what am I offering in
Yeah.
service to the world?
And it doesn't have to be the same as everyone else. And
Nope.
that all goes back to that lack mentality, right? That hierarchy of,
Mm,
money, power, status. And every person has a part to play in all of this.
mhm.
And some of it is to be the antagonist.
Yeah.
Some of it is to tip us on our heads, right? And so as much as we may not like it, you know, there's a lot of good that comes from it
Yes.
because other people then are called to stand up, to do something different, to move in a different direction or to go deeper.
Mhm.
And when we're comfortable, we don't do the work. We need to be uncomfortable to do the work. And so we're all pretty uncomfortable right now.
Yeah.
So a lot of work is getting done. Yeah, it's such an important thing to remember in all of this, right?
Mhm.
And so there are times when we need to stand up. I'm a great letter writer. I can't really do protests anymore. That I
Mhm.
write letters to my government on the regular, just to let them know I'm thinking about them and what they're
Yes.
doing. Um,
Hey, it's me again. Just thought I'd drop a line, let you know what I think.
but again what I think of you,
Yeah.
what you're trying to do. Uh, but also I am doing things personally to affect change in my own life, in the work that I do, to bring more positive energy into everything that I do.
Mhm.
And so it's not a matter of like ignoring and just looking after, oh, go and teach people to do X. No, sometimes you have to stand up and do something, and sometimes, but when we get mired in all the negative energy of it, that's when we have a problem.
Yeah.
And so, because it's very easy to just stay angry all the time, or you
Mhm.
know just avoid everything,
Mhm.
or not search for answers and just go with the first headline you see, all of those things. It's very easy to do those things. Where it's more difficult is to do the work,
Yeah.
to explore, to go deeper, to stand up sometimes and to sit down sometimes and, know what you need to be doing. And you're not always going to get it right, but you need to be doing something,
Mhm.
right? This is not a passive life we're living.
Right.
I think a lot of people think it is.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on with that passivity. And, and then what I was thinking of too is the algorithm pieces of things, that it does take a little bit of work to go beyond your algorithm, because if
Mhm.
you have a certain bias towards a certain thing, and you're always looking up those things, you're going to find that. And it's more and more is going to be shown to you that. And I think about that all the time, because I see what I gravitate towards and the things that I see. And
Mhm.
then the other things, I don't like looking at it because it's ugly to me because of the things that are being said.
Mhm.
However, I need to see it for myself, what's coming out of this particular podcaster's mouth about this certain thing, and how they're mongering fear, or how they're mongering anger and control, and that kind of stuff. It's like the places we don't like to look, but we kind of need to see it too, because we are um we're trying to create a balance and a harmony with all of that, and also seeing that the world holds all kinds of people,
Mhm.
and there's many different expressions of that. And so it's not about making nirvana or making, Shangri-La. It's really about, like, how can we create something where we each can be diverse and create a unity out of a diversity, instead of a homogeny where we're all supposed to stop being who we are to be this ideal over there, that it doesn't fit any of us. And, that's where a lot of, I think, the unhappiness and dysfunction and all that kind of stuff comes in, because we're all just fighting to ultimately express who we truly are, whether we know it or
While
not.
hiding it because we're afraid what other people will think.
Yeah. So it comes down to that again. Yeah. But I mean, we have rightfully so, right? Because there's a
Mhm.
lot of fear about that. What will
Mhm.
happen to me if,
Yeah.
what will happen to me if I speak out against something? And, even if it's like within a family system, because, yeah, I know my family, I don't say a lot because I know, I'm assuming I know, but I know from experience, they have their way of looking at things. And, you know, if they don't want to even hear how I look
Mhm.
at it, because it's an affront to their viewpoint, and it turns into an argument. And I'm not really willing to be in an argument about it, because it's not about right or wrong. It's just an opinion,
Mhm.
or it's the way I see would be better. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And we're never going to agree on all things with everyone,
No.
ever. And that's good that we're not, right? We have to have, but we often take, just as a society, oh, if you don't agree with me on this, you're against me.
Right.
Or I just have a different opinion about that thing.
Mhm.
Now, if you have, you know, a long chain of things that are, I disagree with, I tend to like, maybe I really don't want this person in my life. And if human rights are not a concern for you, then I definitely have some issues. But
Mhm.
for the most part, I do try to be open. I've had some really interesting conversations with people that I would not um, consider we would be in the same realm, you know, just in different ways. And it's good. It's interesting, and I learn things.
Yep.
I'm not right on everything,
Yeah.
most everything, but not everything.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because, like, now we have only two ways of being in a group, right? And I actually am a independent, because, I go, yeah, I can see that where that works, and yeah, I can see where that works. And, like, I kind of think that it's not binary. It can't be binary. That's
Yeah.
just my personal opinion, but um it it's like nature doesn't work that way. but we're trying to like kind of hammer things into labels. Like you need to fit into this label. And
Mhm.
I I feel like that there's a crippling effect to that, trying to cram people into this one way of being or that way of being or whatever. Or we need to have a label for this, that, or the other thing. And I think, I mean, the label is fine, but like, don't make me become the label. Like I
Mhm.
don't want to identify with a label. I don't, and because think about that word, identify with. It means it becomes part of my identity. And
Mhm.
it's, I think that's part of what we're trying to learn right now too, of like, who am I really? If
Mhm.
well, I'm a woman, and what does that mean? That comes with meaning, right?
Mhm.
It's like, well, it's my gender, but am I my gender or am I a human being? And, there's that. And there's all of those identifiers, right, that we have.
Yeah, there's not only two identifiers,
Yeah.
right? There's many. When you think about how people describe someone, they often will describe physical first because, so that you can point them out in a situation, right? That person there with the dark hair and the dark glasses and the, beige shirt and, all of those things. And then, but that's not who you are, right?
Right.
That's just to identify you, right? So that people can know who I'm talking about. And then there's like, what about you, right? Whether it be personality traits, whether it be the things you're passionate about, what, all of these different things. And when you like, it's endless, the descriptors you could have for people,
Right.
um, whether from someone else or from your own self, because they could be very different. And
Mhm.
then how do you put someone in a box when they could have 22 different descriptors, probably a lot more, but they're not the same 22 as the person next to them. Maybe they have 18, or
Mhm.
maybe they have 6, right? And we don't just fit into one box or two boxes. We are all unique. We are
Mhm.
all individuals. And we keep forgetting that. We are individuals. Yes, we are a collective. We are one energetically, but we are individuals. And us trying to be the same has caused so much grief.
Mhm.
It's, yeah, so much.
Yeah.
And when you take, when you take it as a personal slight that someone isn't like you, how dare you? How dare you think differently? How dare you be different?
Yeah.
Um, that's definitely a problem and
Mhm.
causes a lot of what we see in the world, a lot of the hate that we see.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, it really does. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So, what are we doing that's good in the world?
Yeah. What are we doing that's good in the world? And I have one person watching, but I'm like, is that me watching? Because I have it on my
I
phone.
don't-
So nobody's really watching right now. But if you're watching this later,
Mhm,
I'd love for you to kind of sit in contemplation. What am I building that's good? And well, then I go, well, what is good? What's the definition of that? And
mhm,
so when I think about that, it's like, what's positive? You know, what am I building that's positive? What is it? What am I building that makes me feel positive that I'm putting out into the world? And maybe you're not building anything. Maybe it's not about building. I like saying creating, but then that gets tied up with artwork,
mhm,
and I really, my definition of creation is very loose
mhm.
as far as
I
like,
create spreadsheets. I
yeah, there you
create
go.
I create art. I create books.
Yeah.
Um,
Are you out there creating headaches for people? I don't know.
I probably do that too.
Maybe not intentionally, but
Yes, that.
yeah.
But it is something to contemplate.
Mhm.
What are you creating? What are you putting out in the world that is positive?
Yeah. Even
And
if, I think about like when I sit at the altar and I imagine, like, we do like a link up thing ceremony every Wednesday, and this is part of our Pachacuti Mesa tradition that like all Mesa carriers. Oh, someone just popped in. Good morning from
morning from Australia.
Australia. Good morning.
Welcome, welcome.
Thanks for joining us. Um, yeah, so what we do is it's a virtual gathering, pretty much. And it's just ever since I became a Mesa carrier, it's been told this is what you do every Wednesday night. You open your Mesa, you tone the directions, you connect with Pachamama, you bring in the light, and then you send healing energy to
Mhm,
Pachamama. And then the last part of that is you send energy to loved ones, global conflict, whatever it is
mhm,
that's touching your heart. And usually when I gather with different people, people speak their heart of, what energy they're sending. And to me, that's like a beautiful, positive thing that you can do in the world that it's super easy to do. You don't have to have a mesa. You can sit by yourself and just send positive energy and vibrations. And there's a lot of different studies out there. If
I
you
was just
need to
gonna say
have
there's a lot of studies on that. Yeah.
yeah, if you need to have the science to back you up, that to know that the stuff works. I mean, there's experiments that people have done in certain war-torn areas where they had big numbers of people praying,
Mhm,
and at the same time, the peace and the quiet that happened during those prayer times. So
mhm,
there is something to it, and I think we dismiss, like, the most simplest thing because we are so action and material oriented, and we have to start realizing that what we're doing when we're praying or we're sending energy or love or support to someone is such a big gift. You're not sending pieces of yourself. You're asking spirit or angels or however you imagine the unseen world to be working to go and be available to that
mhm.
person going through that hard time or those people going through a hard time. And it's there in the energy available. And all the person has to do is receive it, you know, because
Yeah.
you can't force it on people, but you can make,
Energy available.
energy available. Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and, even if they don't know, there's a they don't need to, right?
Mhm,
Because there have been many studies about the energy shifts that happen. And so when you're sending positive energies in whatever way it works best for you to someone, somewhere, something, there are energy shifts that happen. And it's been studied for a number of years now.
mhm,
And really, and sometimes when they do the global prayer or those things or the global meditations, it's just amazing the differences that they see.
mhm.
Yeah, really fascinating things. But yeah, so what are you going to do to and I'm speaking to everyone. What are you going to do, not just you, Deb, to
I'm doing this.
send positive energy into the world? Yeah, sit for a few minutes each day and or once a week if you feel like you don't have time.
Yeah,
But
yeah. But
I
I
think
think,
it's really
it can be as simple as just waking up in the morning and connecting with your high self or connecting with spirit before you even get your feet out of bed and
fascinating.
inviting in positive vibrations for yourself that when you're in that vibration of energy, you're just emitting it, you
Mhm,
know?
mhm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm starting to fade.
Yeah.
I've been doing really well. I've been really been careful with my energy and things. Um, my wife is having a test, sleep test done today,
Mm.
and so she couldn't sleep with her machine on, that CPAP machine that she normally sleeps with. So I did not sleep as well.
Oh.
She did not sleep as well. And so I have to say, today has been a little bit more of a struggle than I would like. But typically, I've been doing really well recently, the last few weeks for sure, of really taking care of myself and my energy levels. But today,
Mhm.
I'm feeling it a little bit. So,
Yeah, yeah. Well, that sounds like a rightfully so sorta thing, you know?
yeah. So,
Yeah, and I said to you earlier, I'm like, I'm a little discombobulated. I just got back from the East Coast. Like, basically
mhm,
yesterday was my first day back. So there's always that, like, it was a fun trip. It was, I was there for a week, and it's just kind of reacclimating to the time zone change, first of all, because it's like 3 hours of a difference right now, and
Mhm.
so that is a little disorienting.
Mhm.
Um, it wasn't so bad going, but it coming back,
Coming back is always the worst, yeah.
yeah, it just takes a little bit to kind of, like, reassociate with the world around me here.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts that you wanna share before we go today?
No, I just really feel like, that the message for today, to take with you is just, even if it's like, what am I building that's good? If it's not that question, it's like, how am I creating something positive for myself today? And just keep
Mhm.
it like a daily question. You know, I like pulling cards. I mean, that's a great question to ask your oracle deck. Like, what's something positive I can do today?
Mm,
Or, what would be a positive thing to hold today? And what does that look like? And can we do that without, you know, uh, being perfect about it, because we want to be gentle with ourselves too. And so we're not saying be positive and that's it. It's, how am I cultivating it within myself and what I'm creating in the world? And then also giving myself the leeway to fall short, if you will. I don't like saying that word, but like to fall off of it, to
mhm.
be negative if I have to be, and knowing that like, well, that negativity I just fell into is just an expression, it's just another expression of the multifaceted me,
Yeah, and the whole thing is just like, "Okay, I noticed that. Okay, what am I gonna do to bring more positivity?"
Yeah.
Because, yes, we're human. We're going to have different emotions. We're going to have different thoughts. We're gonna, rant and rave about politics occasionally, and then, go, "Okay, well, what am I doing that's positive in the world?" And,
Right.
you know, those sort of things I think are really important.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yes. Well, thank
Bring
you to everyone who has been watching or will be watching. Please leave comments. We love that. Let us know what you're doing that, you know, for your own self or for the world. And it doesn't have to be huge. You don't have to plan a big event. You can just be, sending positive energy out to the world.
Yeah, I think
Just,
that's the big piece right there
I
is
think
to
that's actually a
recognize,
better
yeah, just how
job.
valuable you are and how much you matter in the world,
Yeah.
and that's a great place to start.
Yeah. I would absolutely agree. Thank you, everyone. We're going to try and stop the streaming. We'll see what happens. Doesn't always work.